CBN has called banks that the rate cap be removed from the I and E window, and customers are allowed to trade freely at any rate subject at a 1 naira spread between the buy and sell rate. Let's talk about what that means and how this is going to affect the Nigerian economy as a whole.
Well, we have said for a long time, I think it was in 2016 and 2017, we wrote a paper which we didn't put out publicly, but we shared with relevant parties, including the CBN, where we said as long as we don't have a unified exchange rate, as long as we have multiple markets and a lack of transparency, what's going to happen is no one's going to invest in Nigeria. We'll have insufficient investment, we'll have insufficient growth, and we'll get poorer and poorer. And what we said 8 years ago came to pass. I mean, we know during His Excellency Buhari's administration, the average growth rate was only 1.5%, and the population growth is 2.7%. So what we said came to pass. So it's a necessary condition to get enough investment in the country that we have a unified exchange rate. I mean, we are a country of 200 million people. We have millions of people that travel in and out of the country every year. We have hundreds of thousands of SMEs that we want to succeed. We have tens of thousands of importers. And a system where you have multiple exchange rates, where you don't know how you have access to foreign exchange at what price, simply is unworkable. And any system where you have to go to the Central Bank of Nigeria in order to access foreign exchange or to get approval for it simply isn't going to work under those circumstances. And that's what we've proved over the last decade. And I think the reaction to the statement by His Excellency President Tinubu during the inauguration was very positive. And of course, there's been another statement to the press by someone from his inner circle this morning or last night that's come out in the press. And all those signs are very positive. So we view this as a necessary step on the road to economic recovery in Nigeria. So we're very much in favor of unification of the exchange rate.
Great. Noted, Dr. Neven. Now, during his inauguration speech, the president, he also stated that he's counting on budgetary reforms and a raft of other policies to achieve that objective. Do you think there are other factors that could also enhance this objective for a single exchange rate window in order to make it, to implement it rather smoothly?
Well, I actually don't see any barriers to implementing it. And also, let's be clear, I mean, we are not in favor of an I&E window. There is no reason to have an I&E window that importers and exporters go to. The way it should work is the central bank is the banker for the banks. But as an individual who's an importer or an exporter, or if I'm traveling abroad and need some euros, I go to my bank, and my bank gives me the foreign exchange at the market exchange rate. Then what happens behind the scene is you have a market for it, but there's no reason this is operated by the central bank. In fact, in our context, it should be operated by FMDQ, and they've tried to build up an FX market, an FX forward market over the last few years. I mean, if this is opened up for them to allow to do it, or some other exchange, NGX, will be very successful. That's how it works elsewhere, and it works very successfully. So there's no reason for there to be an I&E window. But so let's be clear, if you're an importer or an exporter and you need foreign exchange, or you have foreign exchange to sell, the person you go talk to is your bank, or you go talk to your buddy that jap it to Canada and you make an exchange with that person privately. But we don't need the central bank involved in importers and exporters' need for foreign exchange. So I think that's the next step on it. But I don't see this as being a very onerous task. I mean, the banks are very well organized to deliver this kind of service in the market. It would happen very quickly. We already have billions of dollars moving in and out of the country, well, tens of billions every day, 50 billion, 60 billion imports, 50 billion, 60 billion exports. So we're already set up for massive amounts of money transfers on that. So I actually think there's really no barrier to very quick implementation of a unified exchange rate. All it takes is the Central Bank of Nigeria to stop selling dollars to privileged individuals or privileged companies at less than the market exchange rate. Once they do that, we have a unified exchange rate.
Okay, I mean, Neven, still talking about how this would affect the Nigerian economy. How could a single exchange rate window potentially address issues such as currency volatility and speculative activities? And then, even progressing forward, what would you say are the potential benefits for Nigerian businesses and consumers under this single exchange rate window?
Well, to begin with, we're going to get a lot more investment. We're going to get a lot more investment both by Nigerians, by the diaspora, and also foreign investment. And that's going to help stabilize our balance of payments. We're going to have a lot more certainty in running businesses. I mean, an FMCG company right now who doesn't know, I mean, they might produce 80% of the value of their product within Nigeria, but they need to import some ingredients or need to import spare parts. They have no certainty on accessing foreign exchange. So it's just dramatically going to make the business environment much better. But in addition, it's also going to have a big impact on the fiscal situation. So let's be clear on what's happening right now. We have a federation account. The dollars from the federation account come from NMPC. Of course, there's been no dollars that have gone from NMPC to the federation account in 2022 and 2023. But you were supposed, because of the foil subsidy. But with that removal, we should see some dollars flowing. So then what happens is the NMPC sends that money to the CBN. It's not the CBN's money. It in fact belongs 20% to the LGAs, 24% to the states, and 56% to the federal government, if I remember the numbers correctly. It's their money, not the CBN's. I mean, it may be housed at the CBN, but the decision on how it's deployed goes to the three parties that own it. What's been happening is the CBN has been taking the Sokoto governor's money or the Sokoto state's money and giving it to privileged individuals at 411 naira to the dollar, when the real price is 700, 750, 650. We don't really know because they removed any price transparency. And then what happens is the Sokoto governor cannot pay the pensions of his pensioners. So that fundamental issue is something that's going to be addressed by this. But now the Sokoto governor will get full value for the dollars that are their dollars by the Constitution of Nigeria. They'll better be able to pay their workers. So it's going to have a dramatic impact on the fiscal structure of the country when we stop giving these dollars to privileged individuals. So we're going to get more investment, a better business environment, more fair use of our resources in terms of the way the fiscal system is supposed to work. And simply all of that is going to make the exchange rate strengthen, in my view. I mean, I think that from the 750, because that's the real market price, that's what I can go out and exchange for and get dollars if I need them. I have to pay 750 naira. I expect with these moves, the foil subsidy removal, the exchange rate unification, and other things that His Excellency Tinubu's administration are likely to do in the short term are going to cause actually a strengthening of the naira. I mean, people, you just had a guest on your show with Rhodas talking about investment in solar energy and renewables. People want to invest in Nigeria. It's just that over the last decade, we've given them every reason not to invest, and the numbers have shown that. The growth rates have shown that. The poverty increase has shown that. Now we have a reason to invest because of the improvement in business environment. So I think it's very positive for the nation. Of course, to get a real appreciation of exchange rate, we also need to bring inflation down. But that's also going to happen because we've taken out the foil subsidy, which was a major contributor to a huge budget deficit, which caused us to print more money, which of course contributed to inflation. So at the moment, I see nothing but positives out of His Excellency Tinubu's administration and the bold moves. They're finally taking decisions. And it's not like the unification. It was not like the unification was not discussed before. In fact, the CBN came out for years and said, we want to move to a market-determined exchange rate. We all knew for years that we should remove the foil subsidy. It's just that finally those two big decisions have been taken.